seeing if they're eligible. A service such as MediHelper.com, it is where eligibility happens here. Even if someone believes that they're over the income threshold to get Medi-Cal, they can still use a service like this. It says there's a free assessment on their website, and they've been very helpful over the years. It's run by someone who used to work with getting the eligibility for someone's Medi-Cal with the state, so they're very familiar with those kind of regulations. And it opens the door. Once someone has Medi-Cal insurance, that's the first step for moving into a facility under the assisted living waiver program. As an example of how someone, regardless of if their income's over $2,000 a month, they could still qualify for Medi-Cal with no share of cost. If they had, for example, $2,300 a month in income, if they had some sort of dental or health insurance policy that was for $400, their discretionary income would then be only $1,900. So it's those kind of things that can reduce someone's monthly income below $2,000 so that they can still qualify for moving in, the family not having to pay out of pocket. And even the rent that someone pays to live in assisted living, that by itself is considered a care expense that reduces someone's discretionary income, so they qualify for Medi-Cal with no share of cost. And that is the main door to unlock so that someone can move in to a facility under the Medi-Cal waiver program. Once they have Medi-Cal, there's then the community wait list. Right now, even here this week, we get phone calls from people that they're living with family right now, and they would like to move to an assisted living facility. It will take between 2 to 3 years for their name to get released from the wait list, even once they have Medi-Cal insurance. The solution is if they have a certain category of a situation in their life, it can be expedited. The main way someone's application can be expedited off of the community wait list is if they have a letter from Adult Protective Services. An example of when Adult Protective Services may write a letter to help someone move into a facility faster is that here now, about a month ago, we had a woman that had walked in, she rang the doorbell and she saw we were on Google, and she said that she was taking care of her mother at home, but she had dementia. She, while the daughter was at work, had eloped from the home, and they weren't able to find her. They had to call the sheriff to bring her back, and it was a risk. She was forgetful, and she otherwise was at a risk of harming herself. The family had to work during the day just to make ends meet. So there was the financial constraint. They couldn't afford private pay assisted living, $5,000-$6,000 a month. So she didn't know where to go. And in that situation, Adult Protective Services, they can write a letter that says this person, they have financial constraint in their life. They can't afford private pay assisted living. They can't take care of themselves at home. Therefore, we would like to request for their wait list slot to be expedited. So that way they can move into a facility sooner. And with this APS letter, with our facility, we can accept them immediately. And their slot will get released within about 2 or 3 months. So as long as we know that that process has already been completed and they already have the letter, we know that their slot is going to be released. So that way that we can still accept them basically just as soon as we complete all the other requirements for assisted living, aside from the financial part. So that's the main way that people can solve the financial problem of having someone move to assisted living, is first to have Medi-Cal insurance, and then to work with Adult Protective Services to get this letter, which will allow the person to skip the line so they can move in anytime thereafter. And many people are in that category. Many people are living where they can't take care of themselves. Another example, we have a facility in Lake Isabella, and a woman had called. She said she was recently a widow, and she had a hard time going back and forth to the store to get groceries, and she couldn't afford to live by herself on one income, and she was past due on her electrical bill. So she was getting her power turned off, and she needed a place to move to. That is another situation where Adult Protective Services, if someone's at risk of getting evicted, or if they have substandard housing, there's some calamity like that, that they can also move in much sooner into a facility. And assisted living, I think that many of the families we talk to, people would rather age in place. They would rather be with family, they would rather be at home, where they're at. And assisted living is under the Department of Social Services. So the idea is that in a facility like ours, there are, in the smallest setting, there are only 6 beds. It's just a regular house in any given neighborhood. And there's a caregiver 24/7, and there's 6 residents who live there. And with ours, we have about 20 or 40 people in any of our 5 facilities. And because it's under social services, that is the focus, is there's the opportunity for people to go out and to live life. It just shows on our website, for example, we look on our front page, and we have our Facebook page where we show about different activities that we'll go on. We'll go to concerts in the park, the weather permitting. Now most of our activities are indoors this time of year, but we'll go to the movies. We've gone to Kern County Fair. We've gone to Dodger baseball game here this last summer. We go to church on Sundays. So it's about going out and doing those kind of things. And there's a reason to get out of bed in the morning. There's something to look forward to. And we have activity director that will bring residents to do those kind of activities in the community. So it just shows, go to the movies, and we have reservations at local restaurant. We've gone to the Frugati's, the Italian restaurant. It's those kind of normal things, I think, that many people take for granted, to have a reservation at a restaurant. Because of the financial constraint of living on $1,500, and then the care-wise, if someone's using a wheelchair or a walker, many people are isolated. They're living at home. They don't have the ability to go out to do those things. So that's the spirit of assisted living, is that people have the option to have something to look forward to out in the community, to go and enjoy life. So that's the idea. And of course, we have activities for people that aren't able to leave the home. Some residents, like if they have dementia, they're elopement risk. If someone's on hospice service, if they're at end-of-life care, we have activities here in the facility. It shows we make tie-dye shirts, and we do arts and crafts and those kind of things. We have sitter size. We have walk around the building and those kind of things, just based on someone's level that they're able to do those kind of things. We have live music. We have a local church, St. John's Baptist Church. They have a pastor. Every Sunday we have the same sermon that they have at the church for residents. So it's those kind of things, and that's the spirit of assisted living, is to have something to look forward to, and a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And it's in contrast to a nursing home, where a nursing home is only meant to be short-term, to get recuperated, and then it's a health institution. Someone needs a doctor's order, permission to leave the facility. So they're otherwise restricted just being in the same facility for long periods of time. But with assisted living, people have freedom. We've had residents that have taken the GET bus to Bakersfield College to get a degree. So it's those kind of things that people can pursue goals and do those kind of things. So that's the world of assisted living. There's the financial side that I had covered, where as long as someone has Medi-Cal, we can help them to apply for the assisted living waiver program and to get their application expedited. It's also expedited if they're coming from a nursing home or hospital. The state will also expedite their application. There's a program called Master Care and Cal AIM, which are also Medi-Cal programs that we can help someone to get approved for assisted living through those programs as well. We're just a phone call away. It shows our contact information here on the flyer in person. And then Nelia has put our information on the chat so we can talk more one-on-one about any of these topics. We're glad to share more. So that's the financial side, the care side, social, for going out and to prevent isolation, to have something to look forward to. So that's very much what we do in assisted living. And of course, there's caregiver 24/7. We provide hands-on assistance with activities of daily living. So if it's bathing, dressing, grooming, incontinence care, all those kind of things. We make meals for people. So it's very much all-inclusive in assisted living, from haircut to toenail trimming, everything in between. We can help someone have a pharmacy deliver medications to the facility. We can help them to see a doctor. Any of those kind of specialists, such as a dentist or optometrist for glasses. So it's very much all-inclusive, the kind of services that we can help with in assisted living. So that's our world. In the world of care homes, the resources that we share about, because with the phone calls that we've received over the years, many people go to assisted living as a last resort. They would rather be at home with family. So we put together this list. It's the first time I've ever seen it where it's compiled with a dollar amount. This is the monetary benefit someone can receive just by doing the paperwork to apply for the programs that are available, to make it more affordable for caregivers and for seniors to make ends meet where they're living at. And for those that are by video, there's the link to redwoodbakersfield.com, and we have our resource list, which is shared on screen. This is the list of all the different programs that are available that can help seniors and caregivers, specifically in Kern County. And we have, it's a list compiled. It shows the dollar amount that it translates to. These are the most common programs we've helped people to apply for. And just to share information, just as I'd say a good gesture, it's free information that we're sharing. I've just never seen it compiled where if someone takes advantage of all the programs that are available, they can get another $2,700 a month in household income. Because that's the reality of when you add all these programs up, it's a significant amount of money. For someone who's living on $1,200 a month from Social Security with family, if I can show them how to make another $2,700 a month just by utilizing the programs that are available, and they've been here for years. Cap K has been, it's a staple all throughout California. Community Action Partnership has a location in any given county. And it's these kind of social services. The first of which is food assistance. And so by clicking on food and clothing here on this resource list, one of the most common programs that seniors use here locally in Kern County is the food box through CAP-K. It shows that it's 30 pounds of free food that's available each month at a distribution site throughout Kern County. The eligibility is that someone is over 60 and they are on fixed income. So if Social Security is their only source of income, $1,500, they have Medi-Cal insurance, they qualify for this kind of program. And it translates to $400 a benefit a month. So if someone's otherwise on $1,500, they have to spend that $400 out of pocket. Every dollar counts when you're on such a fixed income. So that's the spirit that I share about these programs. This is a resource people can receive. They can save their money to spend it on other life necessities. So with this program, there are distribution sites throughout Kern County. Many of them are churches, and it does require driving to go pick it up. The alternative is that there is Project Food Box. With Project Food Box, they will even deliver it to someone's home. It shows nutritious food delivered to your door. And it's a similar process of qualifying for this program. And for people that are having a tough time making ends meet, it can help them to save money. So these are the programs, and we have what is called a home health agency. So we have nurses that can visit people in their homes, and they can help them apply for these kind of programs. With free food, it's one of the biggest things that people might not otherwise know about, and by applying for it, it helps them with saving money on a regular basis. To apply for all these different programs that are listed on this resource list, it's a lot of work. For submitting these applications with phone calls and emails and those things through home health service, if someone has Medicare insurance, which people generally receive when they turn 65 years old, a medical social worker is available to help them apply for these kind of programs. The spirit of home health is to prevent someone from ending up in a hospital or a nursing home, to be healthy as long as possible at home. And the social side is a big part, because the financial issue is what brings people to assisted living a lot, because they can't afford to make ends meet on $1,500 a month, to afford groceries, to afford utilities, a mortgage, all these things, a vehicle for transportation. It's well beyond $1,500 a month. So that's the spirit of what the medical social worker does, is to connect them with these kind of programs to make it more affordable to live at home. So with PrimaMed Health Services, this is where people can receive nursing visits at home at no cost, to have a medical social worker help them apply for all these programs, and for physical therapy. So if someone is for exercising and to recuperate, even if they've had a fall, it's a common way that people can receive that kind of service at home, just through home health service. And with our next one on the list, it is incontinence supplies. And I'll talk with families. They say that they have a loved one at home that is incontinent. And I'll ask, do they pay for it out of pocket, or do they get it through a provider of, they call DME, durable medical equipment. And many times they say, well, we just buy it from Walmart, we buy it from Walgreens, but it's hundreds of dollars a month for briefs, for chucks, and those kind of incontinence care. Through Shield Healthcare, it is covered. So Shield Healthcare covers the cost of incontinence supplies through Medi-Cal insurance. It is just a matter of someone seeing a doctor, and the doctor will write an order. It says this person wears size medium. If they're incontinent 3 times a day in a month, that's 90. So they would have 90 briefs delivered to their home for free through a service like Shield Healthcare. So their doctor can write that referral to help them to get the supplies. With transportation itself, to go see a doctor, many times that's a barrier, and it just shows under transportation, through Current Family, Medi-Cal, transportation is covered through their insurance. In our county, about 70% of Medi-Cal recipients are under the managed plan, Current Family Healthcare. That plan covers transportation. Kaiser and Anthem do not provide the same benefit. This is a very underutilized benefit that people are eligible for, that they can receive. It shows on their website, do you need a ride to your medical appointment? Especially if someone's in a rural area, if like in Lake Isabella, by having a doctor's referral, it's a form called a PCS form. The doctor can say this person would benefit from transportation through their insurance, and then to send it to their transportation department through Medi-Cal. They can then call this phone number and they can set for their appointments for free transportation, as opposed to maintaining a vehicle, and just for gas and wear and tear, it's at least $200. So when we add up all these programs, it's a lot of money. It becomes. With utility assistance, I had mentioned earlier, there is someone looking for a place to move because their electricity was getting shut off. Through United Way, and we look under gas and electric, there are programs people can apply for, and it will waive up to $500 of an electric bill. It is a matter of applying for it and showing that they have financial hardship. And even if it says on this application, there's certain criteria. If someone uses food stamps, for example, if they have Medi-Cal insurance, those by itself are what would make someone eligible for assistance for getting a past-due electric bill covered. There's free help with weatherization. If it's to have weather stripping or appliances, the cost can be covered through CAP-K as well, even for utility assistance. And it just shows if it is a certain, if someone's on unemployment, disability, if they have certain criteria where someone's on fixed income, they can apply for these programs, and we can help them to as well. We'll help them submit the paperwork so they can get these additional benefits. And it's all, it has a financial amount fixed to it. So on a regular basis, if someone gets free food through CAP-K, if they get incontinence supplies through Shield Healthcare, if they get transportation through their Medi-Cal, and then even if they're using a medical device, if they have an oxygen machine at home, PG&E will reduce their electric bill. So there's ways they can reduce. It's $150 a month they can reduce it by. And for someone who's on $1,500 of income, it's about $700-800 that they get to save just by using these programs. Even internet, and it just, these kind of things aren't widely disseminated, even though many people are eligible for them. It shows it's in English and in Spanish. Participates in one of these assistance programs. Uses WIC, which is a program for women's, infants and children. If they're on Medi-Cal or CalFresh, or they get Social Security, they can get internet for free. Every bit counts. That's worth at least $30 is to get free internet through this FCC program. And the biggest of all on this list, which it shows it's $1,600 a month, it is IHSS. In-home supportive services is how Medi-Cal will cover the cost for an in-home caregiver for a certain amount of hours on a regular basis for someone. Many IHSS workers are also the family member for the individual. So it shows in one of our tab, this IHSS program. If we go to the county website, it shows to become a provider. So once the caregiver, which can be the family member and then the individual as the recipient, both get approved for this IHSS program, it will pay, it's currently about $16 an hour for a certain amount of hours. It could be about 20 a week. It depends on the person's care needs, that the family member gets paid for taking care of their loved one. As an example of IHSS, we had a caregiver here that she said that her grandmother had recently moved in, and once she got off work, that she took care of her grandmother. I asked if she was the IHSS worker for her grandmother, and she said she hadn't heard of the program. I asked if her grandmother had Medi-Cal insurance, and she said yes. And it's otherwise, it could be $1,600 a month that the granddaughter would be paid for doing what she's already doing for free. She's taking care of her family member just out of the goodness of her heart. If she were the IHSS worker, she would be doing the same thing. The difference is she would be getting paid $16 an hour for a certain amount of hours, and it adds up to a significant amount of money. For someone who's making $18 an hour, working a full-time job at 40 hours a week, the take-home pay is about the $2,250 a month. If in that same scenario, the caregiver were to get approved for 100 hours of in-home supportive service, it would be about another $1,600 of income. So if for $2,200, she's able to make another $1,600 just through doing paperwork. It's a big benefit. It's a big raise that the person's able to receive. And I think there are many people that are in that situation. They may be taking care of a family member at home for free, or they're eligible for IHSS. They would rather be at home instead of being in assisted living, but they've just never applied for it. So that would be another way that would help someone to be stable at home, and it's covered entirely by their insurance. Medi-Cal covers the cost for a caregiver if it's to help with tidying up around the house, with hands-on assistance, with transportation to appointments. It's a world of difference that program makes in people's lives. And when you add it all together, it just shows it's for someone who's not using any program at all. If they were to use all of them together, before they were only making $1,500, but now their income gets increased by $2,700 a month for their house. And it makes a big difference. Those are the big programs that we've helped families to apply for over the years. There are many other ancillary services that are on this resource list, and our social worker can sit down with someone to help them apply for them on a one-on-one basis. So I'm glad to talk more about any of those topics. And in particular, I was sharing at the beginning, one of our guest speakers a few weeks ago, it was the director for the Bakersfield Adult School. And it shows here on screen, if someone becomes a CNA, it shows that there's a certain tuition cost. And this is for LVN. So if we look at the program fee, it shows that $7,000. It also says financial aid available through employers training resource. The majority of people that go through this course, they qualify for the financial assistance. So they can become a nurse for free. Not only is the tuition covered entirely through Bakersfield Adult School, they also get paid for the clinical hours while they're training. And it's a world of difference. As another example, we had a caregiver who was working here. She said that she wanted to become an LVN, and she was thinking about signing up for a private school here in Bakersfield. I asked her how much the tuition was. She said that it was $40,000 to become an LVN. Once someone becomes an LVN, the starting compensation, perhaps it's $32 an hour. So it's a big jump from 18 to 32. The difference is, if she were to go through that course, she would end up at the end of the course $40,000 in debt, as opposed if she were to go to Bakersfield Adult School, not only would she not have to pay anything, but she would get paid for the clinical hours as part of her training. So it's a much better financial position she would be in working through Bakersfield Adult School. Some people, they just, if it hasn't heard of it, or, it's just, for whatever reason, there's a barrier. But it's an underutilized program as well. Even with housing, for people of any age, this is a big program that's here in Kern County. It used to be called VCCDC. It's a tongue twister. It's now called New Way Home. And they have in-person events throughout the year to talk about how people can get their foot in the door to buy a house. And it's a barrier. The cost of housing, it's what limits a lot of people from otherwise, if they're leasing currently, from buying a house. With this program, they offer a loan. I'll put it here bigger on screen. It will help to cover the down payment. It says apply towards a down payment, and it is up to $23,000. If we think of the math of buying a house, there's a program called an FHA loan, which is the main way that people buy a house the first time, because the down payment's only 3.5%. So if a house is $400,000 at 3.5% down payment, it's about $15,000. It's a big barrier for someone who's leasing to buy a house, all other things considered. With this program, it is a second loan that will cover that down payment. And In many cases, I've talked with some of the people at this program. I've asked them, are there situations where someone could buy a house and it costs less than renting? And they say that depending on the neighborhood, depending on the situation, having a mortgage could be less than renting. So that's the exciting part, I think, is, it's the American dream. People want to have, a house of their own and, to own somewhere as opposed to renting of any age. If it's a senior, if it's just anybody, and they're working, people can apply for this program and they can buy a house without paying any down payment. So it's a big benefit for a lot of people. So that's housing wise. It's one of the other big programs that I'd like to share about with people. And that's our world. So these are the big programs that we've come across over the years, and altogether it makes a big difference, especially combined, where it turns someone's financial picture around. It could be the difference between having to move to an assisted living facility or being able to afford living at home. So I appreciate our time together, and I know there are some people that have joined here as well by video. So I'm glad to go over any questions about the information that we've covered. And I'd like to say thank you all once again for your time. And our contact information is here listed. And feel free to reach out to us to talk more one-on-one about any of the programs that we've gone over here today. And if you have any questions, I'll turn up the audio here if anyone would like to answer, to ask a question. And from the peanut gallery in the back, even with Gabby and Christina, they are some of the social service superstars that have helped to go through this process. And over the years with the residents in our facility, we've helped everything from getting their social security set back in place, to go to the Medicare office, to go to the dentist, to get dentures. Their dentures were broken. And it just to start from ground zero. With a lot of people, unless they have an advocate, even to get an ID, it's these simple things. Unless they have someone to help drive them there and go on all these appointments,